Hey everybody, this is TJR. I wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit and maybe even ramble a little bit about the psychology of vinyl. Not too long ago, one viewer left a comment and they talked about the fact that buying vinyl made them feel emotionally closer to the music. Now, what was notable about this comment was this individual said that they did not grow up in the vinyl era, so they had no nostalgia for vinyl. They grew up in the CD era. And this person made it very clear that their choice to go with vinyl didn't have to do with any analysis of whether or not CDs sounded better or vinyl sounded better. It didn't have anything to do with any, scientific research on what the human ear can hear or, what audio experts really do think sounds better. This individual who has no nostalgic no nostalgic connection to vinyl, simply decided to go with vinyl because it made them feel a closer connection to the music they were listening to, an emotional connection. Now, a while back I made a video called CD versus Vinyl where I talked about the debate, discussed it, in regards to digital sound versus analog sound. And in my video, a lot of what I felt was that the loudness wars had a lot to do with making people go to vinyl. Hearing the audio less compressed managed to bring out more of the excitement of the musical performance. And I said at the end of my video, for the most part, I'm probably sticking with CDs because it's a more reliable format, which it is. But there will be those times when I will probably prefer vinyl. Now, since making that video, some time has passed, and recently, when Robert and I were shooting that Black Friday Record Store Day video at Porter Sound Records, that particular day, I went and picked up the new Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings album. This is, of course, the last release because she sadly passed away. I was going to get this on CD because that's what I do. I generally buy an album on CD. Only if I suspect that the album was overly compressed or if I suspect the CD was overly compressed will I then think, well, maybe I'll get it on vinyl. But this time I just went straight to vinyl. Maybe some of it had to do with the fact that, she had passed away and I felt very sad about her passing away. And maybe I thought this would somehow be emotionally more satisfying, just the physical act of owning this. And I have to admit, I really love the sound of this vinyl. The first thing I do whenever I get a new vinyl is I digitize it. I make sure I clean the record and then I digitize it with my USB turntable so that I can make a CD out of it that I can play in my car, but also so that I can import it into my iTunes and have it in my iTunes collection, which I do carry around on my mobile device. I have the iPhone that has the large memory, over 200 and some gigs, I forget how much, but that lets me carry my entire music collection with me. I have to admit, I have loved the sound of this album, and I've loved hearing the vinyl, and I've loved listening to my CD digitization that I've made of it. I have not listened to it on the actual CD, so I haven't made any kind of analytical comparison to see which one I think really does sound better. I don't feel a huge need to do that yet, but I really should, of course. The logical, practical thing to do. So, to my surprise, then not too long after that, I picked up the new album by David Crosby entitled Sky Trails. Now, I'd been listening to this one on streaming service and decided, I'm going to get this one. But I was going to get it on CD also. And then next thing I knew, I decided to buy it on vinyl instead. Part of it was the fact that I got a good deal on it. And my reaction was the same. I loved hearing the vinyl, loved listening to my full quality wave digitization in my car on the CD, and of course put it in my iTunes too. And so I bought a second vinyl in a very short period of time. This is not normal for me at all. I don't normally do this. I get everything on CD for the most part. Then I did something that really surprised me. I bought the new Norah Jones album from last year entitled Daybreaks. Now, I say unusual for me not because it's not a good album, it's a great album, but unusual for me because I already owned this album on CD. When it first came out, I bought it on CD. And you know what? I thought the CD sounded great. Normally, if I think the CD sounds great, I'm not going to bother with the vinyl. Why should I? CDs are cheaper, They're more reliable, less finicky, don't require the maintenance that vinyl does. But granted, I did get a very good deal on this, but I also felt this tremendous urge to buy it on vinyl. I'm not sure I can explain why. It's not an urge that came out of any kind of logic or reason, to be honest. I just felt a strong need to have it on vinyl, even though I already owned it on CD. Once again, I have to admit, I thought that it sounded great. When I played it on my turntable, I love my CD version that I've made of it. But I really should do a direct comparison with these two, since I do have it both on CD and vinyl. I should do a video, a CD versus vinyl. I have to wonder if is this a trend for me? Am I going to start buying my new releases that I want to pick up on vinyl first, or skip getting them on CD and just go straight to vinyl? I wonder, is this just a little phase I'm going through? This does not seem terribly logical for me. And this brings me back to the psychology of vinyl. Certainly, there is something psychologically appealing about the packaging of vinyl. And I've talked about this in other videos, of course. Seeing the cover in this big format, of course, let me take off the plastic cover here, is certainly really nice, to hold in your hand and look at. And, when you open the gatefold here, looking at the lyrics that way as you listen and looking at the graphics, this is way more appealing, definitely. But, vinyl is fragile. It's finicky. It requires maintenance. If my records come in paper sleeves, I replace it with an anti-static sleeve. And you may notice I pick up these vinyl covers to protect the actual vinyl packaging as well. I want to take good care of it. I have heard, of course, and read from other, music writers who have just discussed the fact that back in the days when vinyl was the primary format, the fact that you had to take care of it made you value it more. CDs don't require, like I said, a lot of care and maintenance, and for the most part, they, will last you forever if you take decent care of them. So CDs, somewhere in our subconscious, become more disposable, whereas this doesn't. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I have to wonder if that's what I'm going through. There's this psychological connection that's coming from the fact that I have to take such good care of this format, that it's making me value it more and making me want to have it more. And I have to admit that I'm probably not being that logical, that I'm being more emotional than logical. And to a certain extent, am I just kidding myself, really? In fact, to a certain extent, are all of us who are becoming vinyl enthusiasts, are we all just kind of kidding ourselves? Is it just an emotional thing? Or does vinyl really sound better? Is there really something about the analog aspect of it that really does sound better to us? Lately, I've been kind of having a little ritual. At the end of the day, I will sit down and just play, one album side. And that's it. And I have to admit, I really do enjoy it, and it really sounds fantastic coming out of the speakers on my turntable. But I haven't yet done any kind of a real critical analysis between this and this to see which one really does sound better to my ears. I'm going to have to at some point, and who knows, maybe I'm going to find out that this still sounds better and my bubble will be burst and I will snap to my senses and I will stop this foolishness that I seem to have begun lately. But then again, maybe I will do that analysis and maybe it won't matter, because maybe I'm feeling more of an emotional connection with this than I am with this. I don't know. And to a large extent, I won't recommend vinyl to most people. especially people who, like me, grew up in the vinyl era and then moved on from it when CDs came along. I won't recommend it to them because it is a lot of work. Setting up that high-end turntable is work. Taking care of the vinyl is work. But then again, maybe the fact that it is a lot of work is the point. Maybe the fact that we have to work for it is what makes it more enjoyable. But as the months have gone by since buying my turntable, I do have to admit there is something very emotionally satisfying about this, even if it doesn't make logical sense, and even if this, technically speaking, doesn't sound to any great degree better than this. Who knows? If you go to YouTube, you'll hear a lot of opinions and a lot of very opinionated opinions about, what constitutes being an audiophile and what's the best audio gear to get. It's an interesting thing about audio. I've seen some audiophiles go crazy when it comes to audio gear. I can understand this because being a guitarist, there was a point in my life when I kind of got obsessively crazy about guitar gear. Right down to what kind of guitar cables I was using to, for my sound. I did snap out of it, and I did realize, that you can go insane, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that much because when you play with the band, a lot of those subtle nuances are just going to get drowned out anyways by the rest of the band. At the end of the day, it's whatever sound system makes you happy. If a Bose, Wave CD player makes you happy, that's great. Go with that. If you need to have all this high-end, gigantic system, great, if that's what makes you happy. If this makes you happier than this, then I guess you should go with this. This is TJR, and I guess I'm still sorting this all out in my head. In the meantime, though, I'm having an awfully fun time with these vinyl records here. It'd be interesting to see where I go with this in the next couple months and how I think about this, and I'll probably update on this. Anyways, though, once again, what are your thoughts? And like I said, this is not a logical or critical analysis by any stretch of the imagination. This is an exploration of just how the music hits you emotionally and how the format hits you emotionally. Anyways, though, interested in hearing what you think of all this. Thanks so much for watching and listening while I ramble for a bit.